Hey guys, I have a little tutorial to share with you guys today, and it is on this little spinner. So it's just a really cute little interactive element that you can add to your journals and junk journals. Quick little disclaimer, this idea came from a post I saw on Facebook. I've tried to find the post again. I'm not sure which group it was in. I believe it was the Junk Journal Junkies group, but I can't seem to find the post. So I saw a post of someone who did a little spinner sort of like this in their junk journal. I think it was an Alice in Wonderland theme. It was really, really cool. And it really inspired me and I wanted to create my own version of it. I'm not claiming to have made this idea up, and it did come from someone else. So if that was you, or if you know who that was, please leave a comment down below so I can maybe leave a link to them in the description and give the appropriate credit to that person. I don't know if I've made mine the same way they did theirs. It's probably got some little differences, but this was just the way that my brain thought that it would work. So this was my little prototype just to test my thinking of how I thought this would come together. And I just used a little 6x6 paper pad that was Peter Pan themed. I also used a little bit of Market Square paper here. And what I did was I just cut out these little circles of the little characters from Peter Pan. And when you spin it around, you can see a different little image from Peter Pan through the little window. And then I also added this little map here from the paper pad. So this can also work like a pocket front and back. So this was my little tester and it worked out perfectly fine. It was really easy and quick to put together. But you guys know me, I love to always do things. I love interaction, but I always like to do things that are meaningful. So I wanted to recreate this idea using photos from my life. So it will be a similar idea, but this time I want to do a larger window with less little images peeking through. So there'll be 4 images with a larger window. It will still spin the same way and it'll still be made the same way. And I thought we could do that together because I just thought this was such a cool concept. And yes, full credit to the people who have done it before me. So to recreate this, I've just got a large piece of scrapbook paper, and I've also got I've got like a little 6x6 and just a little scrap left over from making this one. And I've also got a photo. This is a 6x4 photo with 4 photos within it. So I wanted to make sure I printed the photos nice and small so that I can cut them into those little circular images and not lose too much of the picture. So I've got the images that are going to peek through. You can use whatever you want. It doesn't have to be photos. It can be whatever you like. I'm also going to be using die cuts and my die cut machine to cut out the circle shapes, because it's just going to make my life a whole lot easier. But if you don't have one, you can still do this. You just have to cut your circles out manually. So to do that, I would suggest just tracing around something. So it could be like a roll of tape or something. Just trace around and cut it out manually and it will still work the same way. So the first thing I did when creating this was take a large piece of paper and I'm just going to fold it in half. You actually don't really need a large piece of paper. It just has to be large enough to fold. You could even start off with a piece this sort of size. So you don't need to have a huge piece of paper, but I'm starting off with one which I'm going to cut down. Now I'm just going to trim this down. You can leave it as long as you like, but I'm going to trim mine down at 6 inches. So it's going to be about the same size as the other one I showed you. And then I'm also going to make mine a little bit shorter again. So I think this one I made it about 4 inches. Yeah, so I'm going to cut this at about 4 inches this way. Here, and we can use the scraps for other things. Now, if you wanted to, you could take your leftover paper or your scraps to use to create sort of the wheel that will turn in here. That's what I did with this original one. You can see I used the same paper here and that works perfectly fine. This time I'm going to do something different. I'm going to use a different paper for this little wheel section. So I'm going to use one of these. I've got this yellowy color, or I've got that same paper that I used before. And I think I'm going to go with this mustardy yellow. And I'm going to use my Big Shot machine to cut out that larger wheel. So we need to cut out a big circle shape, or a big-ish circle shape that's going to fit inside this little pocket of paper. So this is going to be the little, I'm calling it a wheel, that will spin within here. So this will spin around. We also need to cut out a little window in this piece here. So for me, I'm going to use this size circle. It's still pretty small, but it is larger than what I did with the little prototype. This is going to be a little bit bigger. And I think this will allow me to have 4 different images on the wheel that will fit quite well. So all I did was I just took this little piece that we've cut and folded, and I just placed the window about in the middle-ish where I wanted it to sit. It doesn't have to be measured out or anything. The only thing you really have to make sure is that your circle fits within the pocket. So I'm just going to run that through the Big Shot and cut out the window. So now we have our little window cut out, and our little wheel will sit in here and it will spin around. You just want to have a little bit of it hanging out the side so that we can easily twist the wheel, and we just want to make sure that it's kind of centered so that when this spins around, it's always going to be sitting behind the window in the right spot. And what I did was just take a paper clip and I clipped the wheel to the back side of this little pocket so that we can open this up, and then we can take a little pokey tool like this one, and I'm just going to poke a hole through both of those pieces of paper roughly in the middle. Again, I'm not measuring anything, it's just going to go through the middle there like so. Then you just need a little brad. I'm just going to use one of these. Just got a little blue one, and I'm just going to poke this through the hole that we poked out, and then set the brad at the back. So just fold those pieces out so that it can't come out. And then we can take off the paper clip, and this wheel can now spin around and around. So this is what we've got at the moment. Now what we need to do is just add our images onto the wheel so that when we spin it, we can see a different image. So to do that, we need to take our die cut that we used for this window. So the exact same size and shape, and I'm going to use my images, my photos, and I'm just going to cut out a section of each photo with this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So now I've cut out my little images. These are all just from the same day with my daughter, so I'm going to include those on mine, but again, you can use whatever you like. Because I'm using photos as well, I'm going to use a stronger glue this time to attach them, but for this one I could just use a glue stick and that worked out fine. So what I did was I took my first image, it doesn't really matter which one, and I just placed it down onto the wheel through the window on the front just to make sure it's going to be the right orientation. So we don't want our image to be like sort of sideways or anything, we want it to be the right side up. So I just found this the easiest way to do that is just to glue it straight through the window. So I'm just going to put some glue on the back of the image, and then I can just glue that straight through the little window just to make sure that it's going to sit exactly where I want it to be. So about there, and then we can just turn the wheel until you can't see the image and glue in the next one. So I'm going to take this next one and repeat. So just make sure the picture is the right way up and that it's sitting nice and neat inside the window. I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but just neat enough so that you will be able to see it when you twist the wheel. You want it to sit in the window as neatly as possible. I don't actually know if I'm going to be able to fit 4. I don't think I'm going to be able to fit 4, and that's just because of where my photos are placed. I think if they were more on the outside of the wheel, then I would be able to fit more little circles. So to have fit 4, I would have had to have made this pocket deeper, if that makes sense, so that the wheel could sit in a little bit further, because it's already sitting all the way to the fold. So I can't move this back any further to make this image sit out further on the edge of the wheel. The other thing I could have done was cut this window even closer to the edge so that I could bring that image out a little bit more to fit more. I'm not really actually too bothered though, because I was kind of struggling to find 4 photos from this particular day. I did have this cute one of my daughter giving me a kiss on the cheek, but it was a bit blurry. I decided to include that, but now that I can't fit it, I'm just going to go with the one of me pushing her on the swing. So this will fit in here and that'll be perfectly fine. So again, I'm just going to turn the wheel until I can't see that image. and there's fine. And I'm just going to glue this last image onto the wheel. So just the same thing again, just making sure the picture is the right way up and that it is sitting nicely inside the window. And then I'm just going to open it up and make sure that all of these pictures stuck down properly. So for this one I did smaller circles and I could fit more images inside, but they're smaller. So because I want to do photos, they're larger, which means I can just fit the 3. I still think that's going to be really cute in my journal though. But as I said, further out towards the edge of the wheel these little images are, the more you're going to be able to fit. So just keep that in mind. And if you want to fit more, if you want them to be closer to the edge, you just have to cut your circle as close as possible here to the edge. And then you also have to make sure that your big pocket is deep enough for your wheel to sit in far enough, if that makes sense. So it just depends how many images you have and how many you want to fit on the wheel. So just giving these pictures a chance to dry properly. Another step I could take, I'm not going to, but what I could do is take the brad out and I could pass the wheel through my laminator, and that way everything would be nice and protected and it would be nice and flat. I could just re-poke the hole and reset the brad, and then it would just be a laminated wheel. So you could do that if you need to, if you find that your photos aren't sticking down well. You can always do that, but you can see how this functions. As I spin it around, I can see a different photo, which is just really, really cute. So the last step is just to sort of seal this pocket on either end. So here, and you can do that with glue, with double-sided tape. I'm just going to sew mine with the sewing machine. The other step that I took with this one was just to take a little 6x6 piece of paper. I folded it in half and then I just wrapped it around before I sewed it, and that just gave me a pocket. So I've got an extra pocket here and I've got an extra pocket at the back, which I think is really cute. So if I wanted to do that, I could easily do that again. I'm not sure what size this is, but I would just fold this, say this is a 6x6 paper, I could just fold it in half, and then I could slip it around the pocket, and then I could go ahead and sew it. Obviously, just make sure that you've cut this back so it's not covering any of your window. I think I actually might cut that down to size and sew that together so that I have an additional pocket. The good thing about this as well is if the back side is big enough, it will cover up the back where your little brad pokes through. So if you don't want that to be visible, a pocket over the top is a nice little fix for that. So I've gone ahead and I've stitched along the bottom and the top of the pocket. So now I have this little tuck pocket at the back, there's a little tuck pocket at the front, and then most importantly we have this little spinner. So when I spin this around, you can see a different photo peeking through of my daughter and I's day at the playground, which I think is just so cute. So again, you can do this in different sizes. You can have a larger spinning wheel, you can have larger photos, you can have smaller photos, you can have larger or smaller windows, and of course you can do a million different combinations of pattern papers, add extra pockets. You can make the base pocket taller, you can make it like a full-size page. There's heaps of different variations that you could come up with. This was just my quick little adaptation of that idea that I saw. And again, I want to make sure I give credit to the person or the people who came up with this idea or who have done it before. So if you do know, please leave a comment down below so that I can do that. I'm going to be including this little spinner in my first journaling session in my new journal, which is going to be shared really soon. So stick around if you would like to see that. And yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed this little video, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.